Today we're going to go visit the Juniper Cattle Company. The Juniper Cattle Company is run by J.T. Rickenbach and his brother and his dad on the place that they homesteaded, his great-grandparents homesteaded, way back in 1910. J.T. is passionate about our industry and improving our industry. He volunteers with the South Dakota Stock Growers Association. He does a ton of work with Meat Export and the U.S. Meat Export Federation. And his whole family is involved in volunteering. Today we're going to visit their ranch in Fall River County near Ulrich, South Dakota. The ranch these days is all about cattle production, and we're going to learn about how that's transitioned through the years. So come and ride along. You know, along those lines, just with stock growers and whatever other groups, you know, you've been volunteering in your community. What all have you done, and why do you continue to, you know, reach out and do what you do on behalf of our industry?
Well, part of it is it's what my family, we've been here since 1910, and my great-grandfather was a stock grower. My granddad was in Joel L.O. Rickenbach, my great-granddad was in stock growers, and Joel C. Rickenbach was in stock growers, was also a representative in Pierre. Dad has always been in stock growers. Dad has done more with 4-H, and that's where Dad is today. Yeah. He's up at Western Junior, and so I felt that when I felt that I had the time to show up to meetings and to do something, that stock growers would be.
So tell us about when your family first got here. You said that was your great-grandpa's original house, 1910?
1910, and he lived in town, built a barn out here, and then I think the next year he built the house. He ran the lumber yard in Ulrichs.
So how long, you know, being out on the grasslands, and do you run bulls longer than a lot of guys do in that situation?
I try not to.
Try not to?
But I don't know.
60 days or something? Or?
Yeah, I put bulls in the 5th of June. I pull bulls right around the 1st of August. I start pulling bulls. And all the rest of the bulls were out, except in that pasture. And they were later.
Yeah.
They were closer to the 1st of September. Most of them were in August.
Everybody looks good though.
They look pretty good, you know. This is a pretty easy doing set of cows.
Well, and we've appreciated your dad. You know, he's been on the board of directors for the Livestock Industry Trust Fund for I don't know how many years, but a great fund that was started back in the 70s by the stock growers, kind of a visionary thing with, you know, a few of our leaders. $1 million endowment today that gives away over $50,000 every year to 4-H kids for different national trips, and your dad has been on that board and helped make those decisions for quite a long time. So apple didn't fall far from the tree, I guess they say.
And you find something. I wouldn't say that any organization that you can be a part of is going to be a perfect organization, but you find yourself an organization and you try to give what you can and put input in where you can. And it's been our way of getting our voice heard in our, you know, it's our trade group. And you just try to keep pushing on that.
Right.
So that's where you want to be, you know. I would recommend that if people want to have their voice heard, that's a great organization.
Yeah. Well, that's why I appreciate you being willing to sit down with us, open up your ranch to have us come out here and film you, You know, I think kind of what you're getting at there is we need to tell our story. We need to be our own advocates. If we just, I know a lot of us would rather just stay home on our ranches and ride horses and gather cows and help the neighbors, but you know, it's vitally important, and I think we're coming to a really important time in our industry right now. We see a lot of momentum, a lot of things going our, you know, hopefully the tide's turning, so things will start going our way with markets and other things. But it's important for people to stay involved and to voice their opinion on those. So you'll hear a little bit of bellering, mooing from the cows, and really all that is the moms trying to make sure that their babies are staying by their side, because they're starting to feel the pressure from the riders now, and the moms know they have to get moving, but they don't want their babies to get left behind, and they might not be right next to them. So if they're not next to them, they're calling to them, and the babies will call back so they can find each other and mother up, and then they start moving that way. And as they move, you know, it gets to be a little bit confusing, and some babies kind of get left behind here or there. Some moms go a little bit faster than their calves do, but they, you know, it sounds very confusing, and it sounds like they're all mooing, but it's really only a few of them, and they're the ones that got to find their babies and are looking out for them. It's just them being good moms, and that's what we've bred them to be. So it's really awesome.
When we came out, we didn't have cows. Tried to farm a little bit, quickly switched over to cows, but they drove cows out from Iowa, and I still don't know, and I've asked the older generation, they didn't really know how the heck they got across the Missouri with those cows.
Yeah.
I don't know whether they railed them out, or what they drove them to a certain place and then went across, whether there was a ferry that you'd put cows on, barge them across. I'm not sure. But they came from Iowa, came across the Missouri, got here, got into a bad winter, lost the cows, went south, bought some more cows, rounded them up, drove them north. I mean, there's a lot of really old families, really old, tough families that have had, you know, they've gone through a lot. Yeah. You know, and I think the kids, we've had a lot of things happen in our family, and the kids look back to what happened to their, you know, their great-grandparents. They pull some inspiration for that.
Yep.
My oldest boy is 35. I always want to be, and my oldest grandson is 9. I want to be that kind of inspiration. I think a lot of people do.
Yeah.
You know, you get to a certain age and you think about what happened before and what's going to happen after. And I think that informs your decisions on really how to live your life and how to do things for people. And you're going to make some mistakes. I sure made plenty.
Well, and that's you know, such testament to the resiliency of the people that live out on the land, because they've had to do that for, you know, 100 years, 110 years, who knows how long, generations. I think that's pretty awesome.
Smoke and lightning make it hard to see. I gotta keep moving, I won't miss.
We had those out where we keep the cattle in the summer, out on the Buffalo National Grasslands that has some of our deeded and some of the grasslands in our pasture. It's not in all pastures, but in our pasture it has both. But we run it with the grasslands under the Pioneer Grazing Association to summer, to put weight on calves. So they eat the grass, and the cow eats the grass, and they nurse their mother, and they grow up. You know, from the time that they get worked the first time. It didn't always do it this way, but we brand them in that pasture and work them in that pasture that we just put them in. Okay, so we drive them out there. They spend all summer, from the 15th of May till the 15th of October, and I'm out early this year because I'm going to sell a week early, but I came out early. Where's deer? Down here we got grass.
You've got more grass than they do north of the interstate. I can tell you that by a long
That's a
shot.
fact, you know. And so, yeah, it's dry. And then even south of Ulrichs, and then towards Ardmore is always dry. But yeah, I mean, we really can't complain. It has been a lot drier here.
There you go.
A lot less grass.
Going home, I'm going home.
So back to Troy's question. So we had cows out here eating grass all summer.
Yeah.
It still looked like there was grass. Why now? Why are we bringing home? What are you doing when you get them home?
Well, you want to leave enough grass out there that you mulch for the next year, so you got grass for the next year. It's not that they're going to eat the old grass. If you leave too much grass in a pasture, you have a lot of fire danger.
Right.
And you got to manage for that. But the other thing is that if you leave some grass, you get some mulch, it catches some snow, and you'll have grass next year. So you don't ever want to just nub it all.
In the ground, I got to go, Lord have mercy, I'm homeward now. I'm going home, I'm going home. I'm going home. Yes, I'm going home. Oh, I'm going home.
This pasture here is a transitionary pasture for us. We bring all the cattle, all the red cattle together to gather when we sell and wean. So we pair into it in the spring. They're there for maybe, not the whole thing, because you're pairing in, you're taking cows and calves, mamas and babies, you're pushing into the pasture, counting them in. And you won't have all of them at once, right? So you're pairing into that pasture, but there's only about a month of grazing. Out of the whole year, you only graze this pasture maybe 2 months.
When we eat roughages, lettuce, whatever, we get some nutrients out of that, but we don't get the energy. We
Yep.
still need to have our animal proteins because those don't have the cellulose in the cell walls. So that's why people need
Right.
stuff other than green forage.
Right, we cannot break things down.
But the cows do a really good job, and the cow can't do it herself either. She has to have those microbes, those bugs, and so that's why it's so important for a calf. Its first 8 to 12 weeks of life has to be with its mom because that calf's stomach doesn't have the microbial population. They start eating grass as soon as they're born, but they're not getting much out of it. That grass and the milk from their moms is feeding their rumen, and gradually that microbial population reaches a point where it starts to be able to digest stuff, and that calf will then get the nutrients. So now at this point, when those calves are 5 months old, they can be taken away from their moms, put out on grass, and do just fine. Shouldn't be that hard.
Well, you shouldn't put these on the bottom.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
Phil, when he got home from the Marine Corps, go around the post once.
Oh,
Yeah.
shorten that up.
He came out here with my dad. I told Phil what I wanted, and Phil knew
Kind of what you wanted.
what I wanted. And, hey, knock it off. And so Dad had him put both of them on. It should have a bale on the bottom.
Yeah. Yeah, well.
I mean, I run pairs through there in the spring, and it's nice to have a big gate.
Yeah.
But as much monkey business as that is, probably ought to have a swinging gate there.
I've been around, but I've never had my tea. It's a driven thing that's rolling around my head. The sun goes down below the ridge. We don't talk at all. The shadows long as we cross the bridge. And night begins to fall.
Tell us a little bit, something we haven't touched on at all today is, the reason I know you is because of your involvement with South Dakota Stock Growers. You also were recently elected to the U.S. Meat Export Federation Board, right?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that appointment, and then if you want to go into, stock growers, or you're obviously volunteering and you're getting out there and trying to help the industry, and not just staying out here in the middle of this beautiful ranch. What are you doing at the Meat Export Federation, and why do you do all this to help our industry?
Well, let's talk about the Meat Export Federation first. I first found out about U.S. Meat Export Federation in about 2003. One of my good friends, Shannon Daniel at Pioneer Beef, he had a retail beef business in Chadron, Nebraska, and I learned a lot from Shan about retail meat. And he sold over the internet, and then also sold to into the hospitality sector. As I was going over to China with my other business, Westrom, building parts and machines, and some places the food wasn't very good. But when you would try to get Western, they would call it Western style food, the beef wasn't very good. And I thought there was probably a market for it. And so I started talking to the guys at the U.S. Department of Ag, at the consulate, and very helpful guys. But then they put me in touch with USMEF, and the USMEF, they give you lists of people that want to buy in different quantities. But what it really showed me was USMEF is a very powerful tool if you want to sell. And I think that I just want to keep that going, right, for the state of South Dakota. The ability, if you've got meat you want to export, how we can export, who will buy it? It really compresses the time to make a sale. Sure. You get a list of people to go talk to that are actually interested, that have been vetted to some extent. Yep. For the amount they want to buy, how they want to buy it, what cuts they want to buy. They've been educated in our cuts here in the United States are different than the way that they would cut animals up. Five of the last 7 days we've worked cows, either at our place or at the neighbors. Guys pretty much done preconditioning, but moving cows like us into a different pasture to gather out of, to sell calves or to wean them. If you get a snow before you move out of this summer pasture, which I don't remember getting snows back in the 70s and 80s in October. I know we probably did. But when you're a kid, you just get up and do what your dad tells you to do. You don't have to worry about, you just do. My granddad, he was a rancher, Joel C. Rickenbach. And I suppose he did other things, but his claim to fame was he was a heck of a rancher, good cattleman, good horseman, and he rode for the Grazing Association when he was young. A lot of the guys his dad included, really couldn't have covered the country out here and checked cows. They did a lot of work to this area. We leave them out there in the summer. We check. You have to check your water all the time on an old pipeline. You're getting leaks all the time. You're getting problems. It's an old glued. It's PVC pipe that was glued together. It's not that my granddad and my dad didn't know how to glue pipe together, or Charlie Lettrell and his crew didn't know how to glue pipe together. But what is end of life? And in management, it's all logic and making a plan. You know, going from your big business plan to your operations plan, or to support a sales and marketing plan, that you're not supposed to use emotion. But I will say this, that you get that plan, and sometimes logic will fail you. And emotion's all you got.
Yeah. That keeps the guy.
And that keeps the guy going.
Yeah.
You know, emotion is all you got. As they used to say down in Oklahoma during the Dust Bowl, grab a root and growl. You know, they're blowing away down there. Grab a root and growl.
Yep.
I don't know about you guys, but I read a lot of history, and that's pretty much all that I watch on television is history. And you look at what happened in the past, and you look to the future, and sometimes logic will fail you, but you know it's the right thing to do. You just got to grab a root and growl.
Taylor writes just as well as any man.